The world just saw two numbers that should make every central banker on the planet physically ill: 48 and 142. The first is the number of hours remaining on the final ultimatum issued from the Resolute desk this morning. The second is the price of a single barrel of Brent crude that just flashed on the global tickers, a vertical spike that represents a total decoupling from economic reality. We are exactly 1 minute into a new geopolitical era. The 47th president has just issued a directive that has the Pentagon's Joint Chiefs and the world's energy traders in a state of synchronized panic. The message was blunt: open the Strait of Hormuz by Monday morning, or Karg Island becomes a memory. This isn't just a tweet or a campaign rally line. It is a formal declaration of intent to decapitate the energy heart of the Islamic Republic, if the world's most vital maritime chokepoint remains a no-go zone. The global significance of this 60-second update cannot be overstated. We are looking at the potential deletion of 90% of Iran's oil export capacity in a single afternoon. In response, the IRGC has reportedly moved its mobile Smart Swarm launchers into the jagged mountains overlooking the Persian Gulf, and the markets are pricing in a supply zero event. If Karg goes dark, the global economy loses 1.5 million barrels of daily supply instantly, and the resulting Iranian retaliation could take another 8 million barrels with it. This is the nuclear option of economics, a high-stakes game of chicken where both drivers have just thrown their steering wheels out the window to prove they won't blink first. It's the kind of math that turns a contained conflict into a global depression before your morning coffee gets cold. You are watching a historical pivot point in real time. This channel is the only place tracking the receipts of war, while the mainstream media is still trying to figure out which teleprompter to read. If you want to understand the secret petrodollar defense that is actually being protected behind these headlines, you need to be in this room. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications. We are the inner circle for the 2026 energy conflict, and you don't want to be the one caught holding the bill when the lights go out. Join Mr. Brainbonk, because in this market, the truth is the only asset that hasn't hit a record high yet. To understand why Operation Epic Fury is currently pushing the global economy toward a terminal event, we have to look back at the March collapse. This crisis didn't just escalate, it mutated. On March 2nd, 2026, President Trump officially pivoted from economic sanctions to kinetic dismantling, declaring that the United States would no longer tolerate the IRGC's asymmetric veto over global trade. The timeline since that announcement has been a blur of high-intensity warfare and market shockwaves. By March 15th, Iran responded by implementing a selective blockade, a permission-based transit regime that effectively turned the Strait of Hormuz into a private toll road for non-hostile nations, while targeting any vessel tied to the U.S. or its allies. The situation turned critical on April 1st, 2026, when the Panama-flagged tanker Aqua 1 was struck by Iranian cruise missiles off the coast of Qatar. This was the 24th maritime incident in just 5 weeks, and it served as the final straw for Washington. Last night, in a primetime address that sent Brent crude on a 4% vertical climb to $106 per barrel, Trump declared that the original military objectives, the destruction of Iran's conventional navy and air force, have been decisively met. He claimed the IRGC Navy is now annihilated and not sailing, yet the paradox remains: the strait is still shut, and the global oil supply is facing the largest disruption in history. We are now seeing the fallout of what analysts call a strategic dead end. On one side, you have the Trump administration claiming total victory over Iran's formal military structures. On the other, you have the IRGC's Mosaic Defense Doctrine, a system where small, decentralized units continue to launch drones and sea mines from civilian-covered sites even after their central command has been hit. As of April 2nd, the UAE has confirmed its air defenses are actively engaging missile and UAV threats over its territory, proving that the conflict is no longer contained within the Gulf. The actors have consolidated into two immovable blocks. The IRGC has effectively staged a de facto coup in Tehran, sidelining the civilian government to ensure a military council has the final say on the Hormuz chokehold. Meanwhile, Trump has called on the world to show courage and join a multinational effort to finish the job by Monday's deadline. The historical context of the 1979 revolution is being invoked, but with a terrifying twist. This time, the regime isn't just fighting for survival, it's fighting to ensure that if they go down, the 100 per barrel oil world goes down with them. The timeline is now measured in hours, not weeks. The granular reality of this 48-hour countdown is a masterclass in high-stakes pressure, and as of Thursday, April 2nd, 2026, the data suggests we aren't just looking at a standoff, we're looking at a structural failure of global energy transit. The event that triggered this morning's 107 per barrel spike was a rare primetime address from the White House. In it, Donald Trump claimed that while the U.S. and Israel have hit over 13,000 locations, effectively decapitating Iran's conventional command, The job isn't finished. The breakdown of the current theater of operations shows that while Iran's major warships are currently at the bottom of the Gulf, their ghost fleet of decentralized drone launchers is very much alive. Side A, the Trump administration and the Pentagon, is presenting a narrative of decisive victory. They claim that Operation Epic Fury has achieved its core strategic goals and that the only reason the strait remains closed is Iranian stubbornness. They argue that by Monday, the U.S. will have the capability to not just strike, but to seize and extract Iranian oil assets. Trump's quote, "My favorite thing is to take the oil," isn't just a catchphrase anymore, it's a policy directive. Satellite intelligence shows thousands of U.S. Marines and specialized extraction teams being positioned in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, specifically trained for an amphibious assault on Karg Island. Side B, the IRGC's Military Council, has a completely different read on the situation. They claim that despite the massive air campaign, their mosaic defense remains intact. They've moved from defending the water to a strategy of infrastructure retaliation. We saw the proof of this on Monday when a drone swarm successfully bypassed Kuwaiti air defenses, striking a desalination plant and killing a worker. This was a message: if our oil doesn't flow, your water doesn't flow. Intelligence reports indicate that Iran has pre-positioned thousands of sea mines and sleeper drones that don't rely on central satellite links, making them immune to the GNSS jamming that the U.S. is currently using to blind the region. The key uncertainty, the known unknown, is the status of the April 6th deadline. While the president says negotiations are going very well, the IEA warns that European economies are already beginning to buckle under the strain of 100+ oil. We are witnessing a granular deloading of the global economy. For every day the strait stays shut, another 20 million barrels of crude are removed from the immediate supply chain. The math of the breakdown is simple but brutal. Side A is betting that Iran will break before the global market does. Side B is betting that the global market will break before they do. The strategic significance of Trump's April 6th ultimatum is a direct assault on the concept of sovereign energy control. We are currently seeing a paradigm shift where the geographic advantage of the Strait of Hormuz is being challenged by the pure kinetic will of a superpower. Traditionally, the strait served as Iran's insurance policy, a 21-mile-wide kill zone that no one dared to touch for fear of a global heart attack. But as of April 2nd, 2026, the Trump administration has flipped the script. By targeting Karg Island, the U.S. isn't just trying to open the water, it is attempting to permanently delete Iran's ability to function as a modern petrostate. If the terminal is obliterated, as the president has threatened, the strategic balance of the Middle East doesn't just shift, it vanishes. Militarily, the stakes have moved from the surface to the logic layer. While the U.S. claims to have annihilated the formal Iranian navy, the operational reality is a nightmare of decentralized attrition. The IRGC's mosaic defense means that even without a central command, local units are still launching low-cost suicide drones and laying smart mines that can sit dormant on the seafloor for weeks. This base of operations isn't a single fort, it's 1,000 hidden caves and civilian wrapped trucks. For the U.S. and its allies, the strategic challenge is no longer about winning a sea battle, it's about managing a global logistics tax. Every day the strait remains contested. The world pays a 5% to 10% conflict premium on every single manufactured good. Intelligence communities are currently vibrating with a sense of controlled chaos. According to a leaked April 2nd assessment from the UK Ministry of Defence, while Operation Epic Fury has been a tactical masterpiece, it has created a vacuum of retaliation. Analysts warn that the killing of the Supreme Leader on February 28th didn't lead to a white flag. It led to a desynchronized Hydra. Military analyst Kelly Grieco recently noted that we are on the wrong side of a 100-to-1 cost curve, where a $2 million interceptor is being used to stop a drone that costs less than a high-end laptop. Experts at the Brookings Institution have raised a terrifying possibility that Tehran's radical core is no longer seeking a diplomatic exit. They are in a radical mood, manifested by their willingness to strike desalination plants and civilian infrastructure in neighboring Gulf states. The intelligence consensus is that Iran is operating like there is no tomorrow, which, given the depth of the U.S.-Israeli strikes, might be a literal calculation. The IEA has officially warned that the energy buffer for Europe will run out by mid-April, meaning the expert analysis is no longer about military strategy, but about how long a modern society can function with $140 oil and a fractured supply chain. But the other side has a point, and it's one that the mainstream hawk narrative completely ignores. Some geopolitical realists argue that the current crisis was entirely avoidable. They suggest that the U.S.-Israeli strikes in February, which decapitated the Iranian leadership, left the remaining military commanders with no choice but to burn the house down. From the perspective of the IRGC's Military Council, The blockade of the strait is a defensive act of survival. If their leaders are being targeted and their nuclear sites are being obliterated, they argue that their only remaining sovereign right is to control their own waters. There's also a credible alternative interpretation of Trump's Stone Age rhetoric. Some analysts believe this is diplomacy by high-volume noise. By threatening to destroy the entire Iranian power grid, Trump is creating a maximum fear environment to force a multinational coalition, including China and India, to step in and pressure Iran to back down. This view suggests that Trump doesn't actually want to strike the oil wells, which would devastate the U.S. economy before the next election, but is betting that the mere threat will cause the Iranian regime to fracture from within. It's a grand bluff with a $142 per barrel price tag. The consequences of this Monday deadline are hitting your front door right now. Oil prices have surged 6.7% in the last 24 hours alone, with Brent crude topping $108. In practical terms, this means gasoline prices in the United States are on a trajectory to smash through all-time records by next week. But it's not just about the pump. The logistics fever caused by the Hormuz closure means that shipping companies are rerouting everything around Africa, adding $2 million in fuel costs to every single voyage. These costs are being passed directly to you in the form of emergency surcharges on everything from electronics to grain. Geopolitically, we are seeing the fracturing of alliances. European leaders are reportedly furious at the lack of consultation before these latest strike threats, with some Swiss and Polish officials already stalling on defense payments. Your regional security is being traded for a high-stakes gamble in the Gulf. If the Stone Age strikes proceed, we aren't just talking about a war in the Middle East. We are talking about a global cyber and kinetic retaliation that could target Western tech companies and power grids. The viewer impact isn't a headline. It's the risk of a 1970s-style energy crisis meeting a 21st-century digital collapse. What happens next will be decided in the next 48 hours. We are watching for two specific indicators. First, any movement of U.S. amphibious task forces toward the Iranian coast. And second, the gold-to-oil ratio, which is currently signaling that traders are preparing for a total war event. The confirmed facts are brutal. The strait is shut. Trump has set an April 6th deadline for obliteration, and oil has just hit $108 with no ceiling in sight. We have two credible scenarios: escalation, where the Monday deadline passes, the strikes begin, and we see $200 oil and a global blackout; or extraction, where the U.S. successfully takes the oil assets, but triggers a decades-long insurgency that drains the West's treasury. Recapping the facts. The Hormuz chokehold is the greatest threat to your way of life since the 1940s. The math of the conflict is broken, the command structures are decapitated, and the only thing left is the raw power struggle over the world's energy jugular. This isn't just about a strike on Iran, it's about the survival of the global economic order. The receipts are in, and the balance is currently in the red. If you want to survive the April 6th collapse, you cannot afford to look away. This is the only channel that tracks the money, the missiles, and the maps in real time. Subscribe to Mr. Brainbonk right now and hit that notification bell. We will be providing emergency updates every hour as we approach the deadline. Like this video to help us break the algorithm and get this intelligence to the people who need it. Post your take in the comments. Is Trump bluffing, or are we really going back to the Stone Age on Monday? I'm reading every single comment. Stay sharp, stay vigilant, and get your own oil.